Hi guys, Tosif here with Walk and Talk Cricket. Obviously we're again in our workshop. So today we'll talk about the first Ashes Test. The timing isn't great for us here in New Zealand because the game starts around 10 o'clock. So we tend to watch the first session and then go to sleep. But obviously it was pretty exciting, especially the last day, and we had to stay up for a bit longer. And the game didn't start until afternoon UK time, so it was way past midnight our time. Anyway, so we'll just have a quick recap of the final of the game. Obviously, you know what has happened. So Australia has won by 2 wickets. So let's go through, obviously there are a lot of ifs and buts. If Stokes hadn't declared the innings, they would have won the game, or blah blah blah. If baseball is working or not working. So I thought I'll just cover it from my perspective as a obviously former cricketer, coach, and just more of an analyst. So if you look into it, obviously the brand of cricket McCullum and Stokes and English team is trying to play is to get a result, right? So we got the result in the end. So fair play, they lost, but they at least made a game out of it, because they've still faced I think around 40 or 38 less overs than Australia. Got the same amount of wickets as they got, and got almost the same amount of runs. So Australia, I guess, obviously played better cricket on the day 5, and that what made the difference. So if we look into what were the turning points, so obviously there's a big talk about how quick England scored runs, and they obviously put England into bat with 20 minutes ago. So I mean, is it a good declaration or not? Because 78 overs, new ball was almost due. Root was batting. He could have scored a lot quicker with a new ball if they'd taken it, and could have scored another 30, 40, 50 runs. However, as an opening batsman, you don't want to go in for last 3 overs, especially when you are not expecting it, right? So Australian team had to rush to the dressing room, get changed, and then back into the batting. So a lot to think about for them. For example, if they were sending a night watchman or not, all those things they had to decide all these things very quickly. So I think strategically it wasn't a bad decision, to be honest. And especially the brand of cricket they play nowadays, England, they wanted to surprise Australia, and they definitely did that. Unfortunately, they didn't get any wicket. But if you look into, obviously, if you look at both the top order batsmen from Australia, 36, 37, so they are mature enough not to be worried about going back in for 15 minutes, but could have gone either way. Australia generally, batted around Khawaja, and who just looked good. Like he was before the World Test Championship final. All the games earlier this year he played, he looked $1 million, and no difference. He just looked apart. Obviously Smith got LBW to Stokes in the first innings, and Labuschagne got nicked off. It was well set up, actually, a wicket as well. But overall, I think Australia looked pretty good at one stage. They lost 4-14 towards the end, and that's why they had a deficit of 7 runs. But going into the second innings, England never looked like they had a plan to score quick runs. They wanted to score quick runs, but no one really. So in my opinion, if you want to score 5 and over, right? So you need 1 or 2 batters to anchor, and the rest, obviously, I thought Joe Root would have been like your anchor, but the way he got out, obviously he went down, and then when he crossed, had he gone straight, might have had a chance. So it looked like if they were in a hurry and there was no need to. So I felt like a little bit of maybe baseball is great, but you still need to have planning around it, because you need an anchor and then rest bat around that person. Like Khawaja did in first inning, scored runs, rest of them around, and you get a reasonable size total. So I think a lot of 30s and 40s in the second innings of England, a lot of 40s actually, Stokes, Roots, Brooks, could have been better, but I guess that's how it is. If we look into the second inning of Australia, obviously, at one stage, 8 for 227. After Khawaja got out, you probably thought, well, that's it. Carey can bat, Cummins can bat. But I think that's 8 for 227. It's a big task. But strategies England used, obviously, they delayed the second new ball. Root went for like 2 6s and a 2, I think, in the 83rd over. Until 85th or 86th over, they didn't take the new ball. And Anderson didn't bowl the new ball. So to my surprise, but I don't know if he's carrying a niggle or not. A little bit strange tactics, but again, like, when I say strange, like obviously there's a surprise factor to the baseball, and I guess that could be it. If you look into the bowling side of things for what we've discussed, the batting, so obviously it was like a subcontinent track, but not an Indian subcontinent track, more of a Pakistan subcontinent track that doesn't have a lot of turn. They have reasonable turn, but not like it does in India, and not enough bounce for the fast bowlers. So I don't think England, if we know what track they were playing at, they have picked the right bowling combination. To be honest, if on a track like this, you probably would take a punt on a wrist spinner. I know Rehan Ahmed is quite young, and they've just got Moeen Ali in, obviously. But for a track like this, you need someone like more of an X factor to get you wickets. And similarly, you need someone clocking around 150, 145 Ks, because the bounce is not going to carry. But if you bowl a short one, you can't really duck because it's not going to bounce. So it makes it difficult. Someone like, obviously, Mark Wood would have been ideal if the track was like that. If there was any more life in it, then obviously the bowling combination was great. But the way the track played, I guess, you need an express bowler. Similarly for Australia, although Boland has been bowling well whenever he played for Australia, but on a track like this where there's not enough life, you probably would have better off even playing Mitchell Starc. I know he hasn't been in best of his form, but that extra pace and the angle might have created more chances. Talking of chances now, so obviously there's a talk about Bairstow or Ben Foakes, who England should have played. So obviously Bairstow scored 70 run a ball 78 in the first innings, and that contributed towards England's total at a quick pace as well. The question is around obviously you want to pick your best wicketkeeper, or you want to pick your batsman who's half decent wicketkeeper. In this case, obviously Bairstow is not a bad keeper, but his footwork wasn't there. He took a catch diving forward once, but his weight was on his left leg. So if he had better footwork, he didn't even have to dive. Similarly, this one ball went to the slip, and he's actually going, I think it was second innings Travis hit, if you watch again. So he's actually going to his leg side, and the batsman nicked off. Obviously, it carried to the slip, but what I'm trying to say is maybe he had an injury not long ago, so his footwork isn't great. And in England, you probably need that footwork. You don't need to dive around. You only dive when it's needed, but your footwork has to be better. So Ben Foakes definitely a superior keeper. Funnily enough, Ben Foakes has a batting average of 32. So it's not too bad. And Bairstow is 38, but definitely Bairstow can win you games with the bat. So that's another thing England needs to decide. But I would say stick with Bairstow now you've picked him. But I guess, in my opinion, for Test cricket, you pick your best gloveman, and then if he can bat, it's a bonus. So it's just coming down to obviously overall the saga of bringing in Moeen Ali just a week before the Ashes, because the spin bowler got injured. So I guess Moeen Ali hasn't played first-class cricket for 3-4 years now, or 3 years at least. So he's used to bowling with white ball, just slightly harder, and then 10 overs max in a day. So here we're talking about Moeen Ali bowled the first innings 33, and in the second inning again I think 14 or 15. So he's ended up bowling 50 overs in this game. Usually he doesn't bowl that much these days anyways. He looked good in between, but his length was more of a white ball bowler length, which is not too full, just back off a good length. So that works really well with white ball cricket. But the thing is, in red ball cricket, you have to be a little bit fuller, but you need to sort of invite batsmen to drive, but at a good length. Just fuller than good length, around good length. So he was dropping a little bit shorter, but more white ball bowling. And then in between he bowled a full toss or a long hop, as you would if you're not playing first class cricket for so long. So I think his pick was a surprise one. Probably had to do with something with his batting. as well, that he can give you quick runs down the order, which didn't happen in this test match, but I'm sure he can win you a game with the bat. So again, depending upon how England say it, but I would say you've brought him out of the retirement, you might as well play him another test match at least, unless he's injured. Obviously there was something wrong with his finger. So anyways, I think overall Australia played better cricket. England could have, would have, should have won, but poor fielding, maybe some team selections, poor wicket keeping as well, combination of a few, and poor strategy around, especially in their second innings of batting, didn't help. So let's see, but it's really exciting that the first test match is won by Australia. Now kind of I think the Ashes is on, and just reminds me of 2005 Ashes. I was in England for that, so that was awesome. So let's see how it goes, and I will try to do. Usually I don't cover Australia England, but I will try to do this Ashes because it looks very exciting. Yeah, so if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and I'll be back with another episode on the Ashes before next test match. Thank you so much. Bye bye.